Thank you very much. I'm really actually surprised that the band is first. Typically, we're last when we have this kind of thing. And it works out great because we opened up with an American fanfare, short and sweet, and it's a great way to start the festival. We're going to continue now with a transcription of a choral work, which is a dangerous thing for a band to do when a choir is sitting right there. But Bob Reynolds, a fantastic music educator and band director, worked with Morton Lordson and asked if they could work together on a transcription of Omanium Mysterium, which is one of the cornerstone choral works of about the last quarter century or so. And they came up with this transcription, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And I got them to start really responding to this. This is about the birth of the Christ child and the mystery about that. And whether you're of that faith or not, I had them thinking about what's it like to hold a child, a baby, in your arms. That's how this piece starts. Omanium Mysterium. It's been an absolute delight to be here today. I'm so thankful that it was a 2-hour late start and not a cancellation. I mean, it was very fortunate. We had to squish the schedule. We didn't have as much rehearsal time with each of the groups as clinicians as we would have liked, but we still had a very productive day. And it's really wonderfully heartening to see and to hear the kind of interaction that happens with these kinds of talented students when they make art together. I was talking to the administrators earlier this evening, and I go home from these kinds of events just floored by the hope that I feel. Because most of the time, throughout every day of my life, I don't feel that hopeful because of the way the world is right now. It's just fractured and troubled, and it doesn't seem to just be working very well. And I think that the salvation is right here. You know? So, and I'm preaching to the choir, literally, and what I would say is that with all the administrators in the room here, they'll probably get a little angry at me, but I'm willing to bet that they will listen more to someone who calls them or writes them an email or a letter and who doesn't have a child in the band or the orchestra or the choir or the theater department or in the art department. You know, so if this is important to you, you go talk to your neighbor. You talk to people in church. You talk to people in the grocery line. Did you see the play last night at the high school? Did you go to the art show? Wow, what a concert. What, you were at home doing home shopping network? What's going on with you? You know, you got to just drive it home to these people who don't have, you know, skin in the game. Get them to help you with your cause. It's not that this is a bad event. This is a fantastic event, but the arts need more support still, right? And it's up to all of us to make that happen. Now, we're going to close out the band portion with a suite for band. I wrote this for Mason City High School a few years ago. They got federal money to build a new auditorium that also functioned as their tornado room for the school. FEMA money, you know? And it has walls that are like 20 feet thick or whatever. And with a push of a button, all of that bleachers, everything sort of goes away, and they can take the entire school and put them into a room about not even this big. And they all stand like this, but the tornadoes don't hurt them, you know? And so they were celebrating a new facility, and they asked if I would write a piece of music for them. And the first movement is called Leaning Forward. This is a storied band program there. Mason City is out of The Music Man. Remember that from the movies? I mean, the band has been serious there. Carl King for a long time. And so the first movement is about leaning forward. It's about that attitude, about working hard. And you're going to hear it in the aggression in the music, 5/4 time signatures, all sorts of energy and so on. Hopefully we can do it. And then the next movement is called Looking Back. And now we're looking back at the heritage of the program. And with these materials, it's sort of an aleatoric, a minimalist kind of floating, dreamlike music that's going to happen. And then we have a final movement called Lifting Spirits, which is what we hope all music will do. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this today. problem because of snow days. Here we go. 41, 41, 2, ready, play.
as you hear, there's a lot of joy in music, and Chadwick's music depicts that joy. He calls that jubilee, and you hear why. Now, he's an American composer, New Englander, and little known, so it's underrepresented. I'm really pleased that we can kind of champion that piece for you today. 1895, so just a little before the turn of the 20th century. And he wrote a poem, actually, at the beginning. Well, the poem actually doesn't have his initials, but we're pretty sure it was him. So here's what he said about that piece. No cool gray tones for me. Give me the warmest red and green, a cornet and a tambourine to paint my jubilee. For when pale flutes and oboes play, to sadness I become a prey. Give me the violets and the May, but no gray skies for me. So no gray Minnesota skies for Chadwick, bright jubilee. Well, we're contrasting that with repertoire by a Russian composer from about 20 or so years earlier. He wrote this over about a 5 or 6 year period. Now, it took Borodin some time to write this because, you see, he had a day job. And his day job was a medical doctor and research scientist. He's known for discovering things in organic chemistry that we still study and learn today in academic classes, because Borodin was more than just a musician or an academic. He was everything together. When he grew up, he was playing cello, he was playing flute, he was playing piano, and then he went on to med school and carried through the arts and the academics side by side, just like each of these students represent for you and each of these administrators represent through their school programming every day. So we celebrate that through Borodin and his second symphony. This is the first movement.
Thank you so much, and what a pleasure it is to be here in the frozen tundra. It was amazing. It was 25 degrees when I landed from Los Angeles, where it was 62 degrees. And that's a big change. But I've had a great time, fabulous students, wonderful administrators, great teachers here in Minnesota. Man, you've got some phenomenal high school teachers in this conference, so what a joy that is. We opened with a bit of a Minnesota classic. Newt Nystedt's Cry Out and Shout was written for people who wear robes. And as you see, we have lots of people who wear robes here, which is pretty exciting. This is a piece that dates from the 1950s and comes really directly out of the Scandinavian church tradition, and would have been a piece that would have been toured by the St. Olaf Choir in the 1950s, by Concordia in the 50s and 60s, and then by my predecessor at Cal State Long Beach. It was made really famous when it was sung at the first national convention of the American Choral Directors Association by Cal State Long Beach. So that was Cry Out and Shout by Newt Nystedt. Now we change up. You know, music is really a defining attribute to culture. And one of the things that we're seeing so much right now in the United States is serious issues with mental health in our teenagers and our young people, more than any generation ahead of us. Maybe we see the signs of it better. Maybe there are other factors that have made it harder to be a teenager. Certainly when I was a kid and I went home from school, I was done with school except for homework. But our students behind me come home from school and they're still connected to all of their friends via Facebook, by Instagram. If there's any drama that's happening in school, they'll tell you that follows home. And whatever the reason is, we've seen a real spike in mental health. Well, my friend, the composer Jake Runestad, who is here with us this evening, actually, was really troubled by this trend and wanted to write a piece that kind of directly spoke to mental health problems and especially to teen suicide. And he went to a Twitter handle, I Kept Living, Reasons I Keep Living, and found a bunch of tweets that people had written that were meant to be inspiration to people who are going through really, really hard times. And Jake set these tweets, to my knowledge, I told the kids today, to my knowledge, this is the first piece of choral music where the libretto actually comes from Twitter. And so this is Jake Runestad's fantastic piece, Please Stay.
that what people say about me reflects who they are, not who I am.
It's okay to be a work in progress. Sharing your feelings doesn't make you weak.
Some days are still such a struggle.
All I can think about is Ryan. I wish he kept living.
I decided to ask for help instead of going through it alone.
It was hard as hell, but I kept living.
One person took the time to listen and understand. Sometimes that's all it takes.